The whole world is watching.
I was texting with my son, my 18-year-old son, and asking him what time he's coming home because he just leaves with his brother. I don't know what time he comes home, and I find out that he's at a tattoo parlor getting a tattoo.
Oh,
so I text his mom. I'm like, hey, you know anything about this tattoo thing?
Uh-huh.
I thought he was kidding with me. He's like, no. He's like, I go, where is it? It's like on my forearm. I'm like,
he's like downtown Cleveland. You're like, no, on your body.
I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, just don't get like a job killer or something, like
on his forearm.
Yeah,
he's like, that's funny. I'm getting the words "job killer" tattooed on my forearm.
On my neck. No, it's on his forearm, and we'll see what it looks like.
You know what it is? You don't know what it is, huh?
Yeah, I do know what it is. I asked him. Okay. He says it's a barcode.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It's getting a barcode, and I guess it says loyalty.
Loyalty rewards card. Awesome.
I can take him to any Sam's Club in any part of the country.
It's a Sam's Club card. He'll never lose it. It's great.
Stick your arm out.
No, it's a loyalty card. No, that's my son right there.
You have your loyalty card on you? Hold up your forearm.
I don't know. I'm one of those people that when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm totally gonna get a tattoo. But as I got older and after repeated viewings of Cops, I just kind of decided against it. Every Cops and America's Most Wanted, they always have like the Cops or whatever his name from America's Most Wanted distinguishing features.
Yes.
Tattoo on right upper arm.
Yes.
There's always a tattoo in it.
That's Nora's thing. She's like, every criminal is tattooed.
So, Kiki, any last minute questions, thoughts?
I like tattoos.
I don't know if I mentioned that the stories that are in blue we just move through really fast. Those are like quick hits.
I know they're quick. I was just reviewing.
Remember that guy from the FedEx commercials in the 80s? That's how quick they go through.
When it absolutely has to be there overnight. Absolutely, positively has to be there.
Absolutely, positively.
He also did one for Micro Machines, and he also did one for, was it Wendy's? I think he did one for Wendy's.
I used to love the Micro Machines.
I think his name is John Makita, I think.
Yeah.
Really? The fast-talking guy?
The fast-talking.
Yeah, just like the Power Tools.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this, shall we?
Yeah.
Ready, check. Everybody ready?
Well, I need control.
Ready. Is everything sound good? I can hear you. All good.
Yep. If you had volume control, you could bump yours up a little bit, or I could do it.
Volume?
Yeah. Just a touch.
A tip tap. Is that better? I did that. Gain.
Yeah, there you go. That's
all
perfect.
Right.
Here we go. Daily Tech News Show is powered by you. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, August 11th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, very happy to have Dr. Kiki from This Week in Science. I was just on Twists on Wednesday.
Yeah, I get to hang out with you so much this week. I love it.
I love it too. It's great. Good to have you along. We've got lots of good science to talk about today. There's some stuff in our top stories about healing wounds with nanotech. And what was the other? There's another one about researchers have an attachment for your phone that can do lab tests.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. But we're also going to talk about STEM and the differences between people who want to go into STEM and what the scientific basis for that is. So stick around for that. Also joining us, Len Peralta is in the house to illustrate the show. Hi, Len.
Hi, it's good to be here.
You and Kiki hadn't met before. I couldn't believe that.
I know. This is a momentous show, for real. This is an archive show right here.
That's right. Stick it in the archives.
Yes, we had the meeting before show, and it was something to behold. So
yeah, I should have recorded it for posterity.
It was amazing.
Roger Chang, our producer, is alongside as well. Roger, shall we get going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Thanks, Roger. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. Microsoft unveiled Windows 10 Pro for workstations coming this autumn. It's designed for server-grade PC hardware, so it includes non-volatile memory support for up to 4 physical CPUs, up to 6 terabytes of RAM, more than most of us need in our desktop, at least yet so far. Resilient file system support is enabled by default. There's support for remote direct memory access via SMB Direct. That gives you high-performance networking for file transfers and stuff like that. Not something we're all going to be using at our desktops, but if you need a workstation operating system, this is all good news. Reuters reports its sources say Amazon has held talks with major U.S. venues about ticket sales. Amazon has explored becoming a ticket vendor or partnering with an existing company like Ticketmaster. Amazon already does this. They have their own ticket sales in the UK, so this would be an expansion for them. How do you buy your tickets these days, Kiki? Do you do the old paper ticket still, or do you use your phone? Or
I use my phone. I usually try and get the mobile tickets. I mean, it would be fabulous to have a competitor to Ticketmaster. It's a racket. They've already had a lawsuit related to their ticketing prices and the fees that they tack on. So to have a competitor and to really shake it up a little bit, I want Amazon to come in here, even though I'm like, yay, more business for the do everything Amazon.
Yeah, they're sucking up everything. Good news for people who use SoundCloud, like me. SoundCloud closed a round of funding Friday that was necessary to keep the company running. Former Vimeo leader Carrie Trainer will be the CEO. She's joined also by Mike Weissman, formerly of Vimeo. He'll be the new COO. And founder Alex Lung will stay on as chairman. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to be CEO anymore.
This is great.
Yes. A lot of people were very worried about SoundCloud because it was in a worrisome situation. So it's good. It's a good outcome, all things concerned.
And I hope they figure out how to spend their money better this time around.
All right, here's some more top stories. Snap had its earnings yesterday. I don't want to get too far into the numbers here, but lost 16 cents a share on revenue of $181.6 million, which is worse than expected. Daily active user growth was slower too. They grew 4.2%. Last quarter, they grew 5%. Average revenue per user was up 16% from Q1 to $1.05. Outside of North I guess it's just on the brain. Outside of North America, average revenue per user increased 52% on the quarter to 29 cents. So they're doing better internationally. Snap's other revenue, which is pretty much spectacles, fell 35% to $5.4 million. So roughly 42,000 of those spectacles, 42,000 devices sold. I feel like this is an example of a company that is truly facing trouble from the big five. In this case, it's Facebook with Instagram. Mm-hmm. They have done all the right things to reduce Snapchat's usefulness, and we're seeing the effects of that. Kiki, do you use Snapchat?
I do not. I started using it because everyone was downloading it, and I went, I could try this. And then I was like, what is this? I'm just going to go delete that.
Yeah.
There was zero usefulness for me. And so, yeah.
I was using it for a while, and then even when Instagram stories came along and I had this built-in, number of people who used Instagram and not Snapchat, I'm like, yeah, but Snapchat's more fun. It's got the filters and this and that. And after a while, everybody I know was using Instagram.
Yeah.
They just won that battle. I'm not saying it's over for Snapchat or anything like that, but they are going to have to make some bigger moves to get people back.
Absolutely.
Researchers at the University of Illinois, go Illini, developed a $550 attachment for smartphones that performs lab-grade medical diagnostic tests. The Spectral Transmission Reflectance Intensity Analyzer, which is TRI. So you could call it, Kiki, a tricorder, perhaps?
A tricorder. You can try to analyze some things with it.
This is from bioengineering and electrical and computer engineering professor Brian Cunningham's lab. It can analyze blood, urine, or saliva samples as reliably as clinic-based instruments that cost thousands of dollars, but it's only $550 and it hooks up to your phone. In a paper describing it, Cunningham and his team describe using it to detect a biomarker associated with preterm birth and to test newborns for an enzyme essential for normal growth, and the results in both cases were comparable to those from a clinic-grade spectrometer. It works by using the phone's LED, although if the phone's LED won't work for this, you can also use a pretty cheap external green laser diode that illuminates the sample fluid, and then the light travels through an optical fiber through diffraction grating into the phone's rear camera. They 3D printed a little assembly for that. And if you want to do multiple samples at once, there's a cartridge that you can just slide through like you're sliding a credit card through a magnetic swipe, and you can do a bunch at once, a bunch of multiple samples. This is pretty crazy.
Yeah, if this really is as good as the paper makes it out to be, if it actually is applicable, this is a game changer. This is going to bring a Swiss Army knife of lab instruments. Everybody's got a smartphone these days. I mean, it's going to bring it to third world countries because it's much more affordable than other tests. And it's going to make it accessible to a lot of DIY scientists. So not just grad students and scientists in labs, but also people in their garages and kitchens.
Yeah. Now, there's all kinds of FDA concerns about self-diagnosis and proper use of the information you discover with these kinds of things that would have to be worked through. But yeah, I mean, you could do all kinds of very responsible things at this as well. And like you said, I mean, suddenly a clinic that's always on the move in like rural areas of Northern Africa or East Africa or places in the outback in Australia or war-torn zones, refugee centers that can't afford to spend a couple $1,000s for something that's hard to cart around, they just 3D print this.
Yeah, and if this is really effective and efficient, and if insurance companies, if it gets it licensed and insurance companies cover it, this could be the kind of thing that people have at home to do their own tests on a blood sample or a urine sample or a saliva sample, and then they can send those results to their doctor without having to go to a laboratory.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
A finger prick, or you could do it at home. And
quality control nightmare, but
well,
but
I'm wondering. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Roger.
Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, like, because right now it does the 3 most common tests, and they allude to the fact that it could do a stack more of existing tests. I'm wondering if this would be adapted for use outside of the medical industry, for example, in like forensics.
Absolutely.
Where you would just basically carry this around like, oh, I'm gonna go scan this whatever blood, dried up blood splotch or something. I mean, it'd be interesting because currently, the lab, there's a lag of time between the time you get the samples and you send it off to the lab, and
that's true for medical too. Yeah, exactly.
That would be awesome. It'd be kind of cool.
Yep.
I can only imagine people having the home version literally run up the walls telling everyone that they're going to die in a few weeks.
Well, I prefer to think of a reliable and responsible implementation of this that means I don't have to drive all the way over to Culver City to the lab to get my blood test. I can just do it at home.
Yeah. I mean, I finger prick. You could do that, right?
I had to collect, I don't want to get too graphic, but for a particular test one time, I had to collect my own samples. I think we've all been there. So, this would just cut out the middleman. Advanced Mobile Location, or AML, is a system that can give emergency services the ability to locate a cell phone that is placing emergency calls with a lot more accuracy than just reading the GPS data, because it does take into account a lot of different things: Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, GPS, etc. European Emergency Number Association, which is in charge of implementing AML, released a public statement asking Apple to participate in the program. And the reason they're going public is the EENA said it's been trying to get Apple to agree to implement AML for months in Europe. Google enabled the feature in Android more than a year ago, and they just haven't been able to get a response.
Wow.
So I don't know. Hopefully, Apple either implements this or explains why, there's an issue with this and there's an issue with that implementation. It has uptake. It's in Estonia, it's in Sweden, it's in the UK. It's being used for thousands of calls because more and more Kiki people are using their phones to dial 911.
I do not have a home phone number. I do not have a home phone. And so if I have to call 911, I'm calling it from my mobile device, from my smartphone. And so being an Android, thanks, Google. I appreciate it. But yes, my husband has an iPhone. And so if he had to make a call, SOL.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people's heads go right to privacy implications, the way AML works, and it should be audited and make sure that it really does work this way. And I'm sure it has. It only triggers when the emergency number is dialed. It isn't constantly running in the background.
Right.
Amazon is exploring using a technology called microwave-assisted thermal sterilization, or MATS for short, to produce prepared meals that don't need refrigeration. Those of you who have ever been on maneuvers know them as MREs, meals ready to eat. MATS was developed by researchers at Washington State University and is being marketed by 915 Labs in Denver. It works by placing sealed packages of food in pressurized water and heating them with microwaves for several minutes. Dishes retain their natural flavor and texture, unlike other pressure cooker ways of preserving food, and they stay good on the shelf for up to a year. Procedure was developed with funding from the U.S. Army, and 1915 Labs has already sold machines to Australia and several food companies in Asia where they don't have as extensive of a refrigeration system.
Quote unquote natural flavor and texture after it's been bombarded by high energy microwaves. Yeah. Have you ever cooked an egg in a microwave?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
So do I.
I mean, it's
the rapidity and the speed at which it's cooked, how it's cooked is going to affect the flavor and texture. These are probably going to be better than the standard MRE, but still not going to be, fresh off the shelf.
The comparison is to compare them to other preservation methods, not to compare them to fresh cooking, I think.
That's right.
Is what you're saying, right? Because fresh is always going to be better. It just is, because that's, it's not chemically changing the food the way all these other measures are. This one apparently changes it less, though.
Absolutely,
And they say the taste is comparable to fast food, which I know is not high praise for a lot of people, but
no,
at least
it's not.
At least it's close enough.
Researchers have it.
What's that?
No, sorry. So what would you rather have, an MRE or a Big Mac?
I would rather have neither. Well, actually, I'd probably rather have the MRE.
Starve.
MREs aren't bad. I haven't had one in a while, though. So researchers at The Ohio State University have developed something called tissue nanotransfection that can generate cells for treatment in humans. It can be used to repair injuries or restore function to aging tissue. The researchers have successfully converted skin cells to vascular cells to restore blood flow in mice and pigs. They also reprogrammed skin cells to be nerve cells to restore functions to help mice recover from strokes. A nanotech chip delivers the cell conversion material to the right place using a small electrical charge. Kiki, I know you're excited to talk about this. So they just zap the nanotech, and then the nanotech changes the skin cells?
Yeah, so the idea is electroporation, where the electrical impulse opens up the cell membrane, creates little holes or pores in the cell membrane through which they can insert all sorts of stuff. And in this case, it's genetic instructions. And the genetic instructions are very specific to inform reprogramming of the cells themselves. And so they go, this electrical impulse goes down several layers into the skin, down to the differentiating layer of the skin cells, the one that divides and makes all the new layers of skin, so that when your skin sloughs off, you don't just end up with no skin, right?
This is why we all still have skin if we're older than the newborn. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it gets down there, and the genetic instructions get into those cells, and those cells being there in the skin can then migrate into a wound area. And depending on what kind of instructions, they can either become muscle or they can become vascular, or in this particular case, they also showed they could create nerve cells. But then in that case, they have to take the nerve cells out of the skin and then inject them into the brain. Yeah. So I don't know. This is exciting and interesting. It gets around some of the problems of immune rejection. So this is the body's own system of regenerating.
Right, you're making your own cells. You're not getting them from somebody else. Yeah.
Right. And it's your own immune system that's guiding it. So there's not going to be any rejection. And so the question now is, will it work in humans? And if it does work in humans, what happens to these cells? Is there a problem with tumor formation? Do they become cancerous and just start growing out of control? Or is there some limitation to how they grow?
So this could be, if the cells behave themselves,
yes,
this could be an answer to our email earlier in the week where someone said, hey, if we have self-driving cars and people aren't dying in car accidents anymore, where are we going to get all the organs for donation?
Make your own.
This could be another supplement for that. Is in some cases anyway, grow your own.
Yeah, and I think there are going to be limitations to this, and that you're going to be wanting you'll be seeing specific cell types being produced. You won't be seeing you won't be like growing an organ, because organs are very complex and they take lots of different cellular types and they're all mixed together. So those kinds of things are probably going to be grown externally to your body. They're probably going to be grown in a completely different fashion. This isn't going to be useful in all instances. And so there will be, use cases. There will be particular use cases. This is proof of concept.
Well, not to bring in a separate story, but I saw on Ars Technica today that they've figured out a way to stop a retrovirus from propagating in genetically modifying pigs to grow organs.
Yes, which has been an issue.
So there's another possibility. Maybe we can combine these two, use this to start the organs growing in the pig, then you take it out and you put it in the human. Poor pig.
I know. Well, and these pigs, if they're growing our organs, they're not giving us bacon either. So, geez.
Or never mind. To get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Dailytechheadlines.com is available as a podcast. It's also available on the Amazon Echo and in the Anchor app. And through the Anchor app, you can find it on Google Home. Now, I know some of you Google Home folks have been saying, why do I keep getting old episodes? And Anchor is on that. So hopefully that will be fixed soon. And thanks, everybody, for listening. All right. What we're not going to do today is talk about the merits of Mr. Damore's memo or Google's response to it. We mentioned it on Tuesday. And as I said then, it's a lot of politics and science about how you react to it or why people are reacting the way they are or what the merits of the arguments are. What we are going to do today, though, is instead of telling you what to think about it, give you some resources to help you decide what to think for yourself. So thank you, Dr. Kiki, for being willing to help us find out, okay, what is the science out there and what does it say?
The science out there, and what does it say? Lots of things, lots of different things. So when we're talking about differences between men and women, yes, of course, there are differences between males and females. But I want to caveat all this is that we talk about males and females as if that's it in our society, where really gender or sex is there's a bell curve to it. Yes, there are mostly male, or not a bell curve. There is a distribution, a normal distribution. And so there are males and females, but there are also intersex as well. There are people who have components of both. Mm-hmm. So we can't just talk of males and females. We have to talk about the whole picture.
And you may say, well, that's not the majority of people, and that's true. But there's really good reason to consider it that way. In fact, Professor David P. Schmidt, University of Michigan, says that maybe sex differences should be thought of as dials, not switches, not just sex, but sex and gender differences.
Absolutely. There's absolute evidence that the amount of testosterone that an individual encounters during development in the womb affects how the brain develops, and then it affects analytical and spatial reasoning skills. So there is evidence that supports this. However, it's not all in the womb. As we know, there is environment as well. So there's social environment, not just womb environments. We've got genes determining how your brain's going to develop, how your sex is going to develop. You have hormones in the womb, that environment that's going to affect how you and your brain develop. And then there's also after you're born. What are your friends, your family, the people around you? How do they treat you from the moment you come out? That's going to affect your development as well.
So is there any evidence that there is a non-environmental difference between male and female brains?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are size differences, and that's been shown for sure. I mean, if you split us up between males and females, males have larger brains on average than females. There has also been shown that there are circuitry differences, and so the way that the brains are connected internally is actually different on average from males to females. And then additionally, in the way that males and females reason or use emotion or social processing is different on average. So there are differences. But
So-
that, yeah.
Go ahead. I think you're going to answer my next question. Go ahead.
But the differences do not mean there is no evidence that comes down and says men are better than women at science. There's no evidence to that at all.
So there's no evidence that those differences affect anyone's ability. In other words, not that everybody's good at math, but
Right.
if you're not good at math or you are good at math, there's no evidence that you had a chance at being good or bad because of your sex of being male or female.
Right. And in fact, it comes down to very often those social aspects. It's been shown that girls who have confidence issues are worse on mathematics than boys. And when you boost their confidence, they perform better. So there's a self-esteem and confidence issue there. It's also what career people choose has a lot to do with interest. And so is your interest based on what toys you were given as a child? Is it based on what income level you come from? You know, there are so many factors that go into determining, and is it exposure? Were you exposed to really cool 3D spatial reasoning logic games as a child? There's evidence that if you give women training in spatial tasks, they improve on that. And their scores, their performance does go up. So the brain and genetic issue is really kind of not an issue. It's a non-issue.
It does not seem to have any effect. In fact, psychology professor Janet Hyde at the University of Wisconsin-Madison has strong U.S. data showing no meaningful difference in math performance among more than 7 million boys and girls, grades 2 through 12. That's current research.
Current,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's showing that, hey, 2 through 12 right now, the abilities are pretty even. If participation in STEM slows down later, it's something else. It's not ability at that point.
It's not ability. And in fact, the US data is just for the United States. And there was another study that compared different nations, how girls and boys performed on math around the world. And generally, there's no difference between boys and girls. And what they found is it came down to cultural effects. What do the different nations, societies think about girls and boys in mathematics? And that had a big influence on the scores.
Now, before we get to the bottom line here, I want to point people to our show notes. We have a Google Doc that's published as part of our show notes at dailytechnewsshow.com. And I've got the studies that I've mentioned so far in there. There are a few other resources and studies that Dr. Kiki gave us, and there's links in there. If you're like, well, wait a minute, I want to find out, what these studies are and who did them and who funded them and what do they actually say? That's all in there for you. And I highly encourage you, if you're interested in this, to go check those out. There is one that you linked to from phys.org called "Can Our Brain Type Explain the Gender Gap in STEM Subjects and Careers?" What caught your eye about this one?
Well, I think this is interesting because it gets back to my point of development. And when we're talking about all this stuff, it's on average, right? You're taking a big population of people and basically saying it's an average. They're all the same. Men are the same. Women are the same as each other. But in fact, it's more nuanced than that, and that there are men with more feminized brains. There are women with more masculinized brains. And the brain itself is going to determine how you behave. I mean, it's going to influence to some degree your socialness, your aggressiveness, your antisocialness, all these things. And so to a certain degree, I don't think we should be talking about the sexes or gender. We should be talking about what's going on in a person's brain to make them who they are. And then it becomes much more, maybe there are types of brains, but I think it becomes much more individualized at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and issues of gender versus sex, they're complex. But there's a lot to learn in those areas, psychologically, psychiatrically, biologically. I, for one, I'm always amazed at when this conversation comes up, and it comes up over and over again. I've been following technology since the 90s, and it keeps coming up. I grew up thinking women were better at math.
That's awesome.
And I was so sheltered. I was shocked when I went to college and people started bandying about the stereotype, well, women aren't good at math. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know what it was about Greenville, Illinois, but all of the females that I grew up with excelled at math. And it was my opinion growing up that was like, oh, well, girls are better at math, And so I'm the top guy at math in my class. Right. And I felt good about that. And it wasn't something that people were pushing on me. And I've always wondered why that was, like why that happened. What message didn't get out there that caused me to think that. But it does show that, granted, I'm just one data point, so I am anecdotal, but it does show that it's possible to get the impression of the opposite as well.
Right. If you never learn. Yeah. Oops. Go ahead, Roger. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say the same thing. Like, my mom was an accountant for Wells Fargo, and her job for the longest time was to program the machine, or the computer, to tabulate all the data. And it was on punch cards. So all the women I knew were all very good with numbers. And my dad was good. He was a structural engineer. But in my math classes, it was actually heavily weighted toward girls over boys. So I just naturally assumed that women were better at math and guys were just kind of better at jock stuff until I hit high school. Then it actually kind of interesting enough, turned out 50-50. Like there was no skew toward one particular gender.
Oh, granted, when I was a senior in high school in 1988, of the top 10, GPAs, 7 of them were women.
Yeah, no, it was not odd. So I that's why I find this whole thing very peculiar, because to me it's kind of new. Like I never got that vibe up until like maybe the past 5 years, when a lot of the issues regarding gender and gender roles in technology and science became a regular news item. And so I was like, for the longest time, I was like, all right, I never saw it because people I went to school with, whether it was high school, college. Yeah,
I think where we are right now, I mean, there is data, and I think one of the gender differences articles that I posted gets at this, but there is data that there are graduating more women than men actually going into STEM fields at this point in time. We've done a great job of enforcing this idea that, yeah, everybody can do it. And for whatever reason, now we're seeing more women than men going into many fields. And so what's happening is there's a drop-off after, say, the post-secondary level of education into careers. And so the question is, what's happening there? Is it social for, family reasons? Is it cultural, corporate reasons? And so this is now, I think, where the science needs to go. This more of a social science question of what's happening socially to lead to the decline in the representation of women in STEM fields as careers.
All right. So what's the take-home message? Wrap us up.
The take-home message is we are on the right track. We're having this conversation publicly. It's becoming more apparent and public to more people all the time. There are more women going into STEM fields, so that there is a very high chance that we're going to see more representation as the years go by in those careers. But again, this is a complex issue, and there are multiple facets of biology and environment, nature, nurture, tugging at the strings of development that lead into what's going on. And so I think as a society, we need to keep this conversation going.
Well, I hope that gives you some stuff to think about, informing your opinion. And like I said, check out the resources that we link to at dailytechnewsshow.com. Also, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit and send us links every day. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And great discussions going on in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. A few emails before we get out of here. Derek wrote in and said, "Hi, Tom, Roger, Len, and Dr. Kiki." Did his research, that Derek. He said, wanted to respond to yesterday's story about Facebook Watch. That's the new video section on Facebook. I think this is a huge move to win dollars from advertisers. There's a lot of interest from advertisers to work with publishers to produce branded content in the form of videos on Facebook. For example, a series of tasty videos sponsored by Brand X, or a sponsored episodic video series by Adult Swim in collaboration with Brand Y. As Facebook has the reach and the targeting capabilities, the problem to date is that these videos aren't very accessible after they're posted. There's been no central hub for videos, so users to be able to find older episodes. This new section will definitely help to provide longevity to content for both the paid/branded and organic videos, which means more ad dollars going through the Facebook platform.
Yeah.
There you go.
I agree. Right.
Listening to the show on the 10th and the discussion of Saraha. Have you heard of Saraha yet, Dr. Kiki?
Yes, and the reason I did is because a friend of mine posted a weird thing and said, and he didn't explain it at all. He just posted this thing, and I went to Saraha, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to say something, and I just said something. I didn't know what it was in response to. I just wrote something random in the little box because he was a friend, and that's what my friends get, randomness from me. And and then I got curious, and so I did a little research to find out what this new thing is all about. What's the hubbub? It's weird.
Demi and Co. In our Slack said, you might want to consider the casual use of the word anonymous in relation to Saraha. While the users and feedback is not visible, the app maker is certainly able to identify users through your email, your device, your IP address, and the fact that identities can be inferred or reconstructed on the back end by analyzing all the data and connections made through giving feedback. And that's absolutely true, especially if you go post it on your Twitter feed, like, here's the link to my Saraha. It's not anonymous in that way. It's not like Signal or Tor or something like that. That's a really good point. We don't want to, well, I kind of assume that everybody in our audience knows what we mean when we say anonymous versus secure anonymous, but it's not a bad thing to make clear. And then Mark wrote in saying, regarding Wednesday's show, Consumer Reports has been operating in a very similar way to the way it functioned in the 1970s and 80s. And in his opinion, this is a good thing that reinforces methodical and thorough testing and reporting. Now, that said, PC World got in touch with Consumer Reports over their removal of recommended from Microsoft products. And here's something that I missed yesterday in talking about this. They didn't remove recommended from the individual Surface products. They removed it from Microsoft. So a lot of people are coming at this like, why do you, Surfaces are much improved? Why are you removing this? Consumer Reports is saying, we've seen enough issues with Microsoft products that we're not going to have them be a recommended without knowing more about the product. Certain companies they will give recommended to, saying you can pretty much buy anything from these folks and you won't have a problem. So it's not as bad as I think a lot of people said. It's also not as specific as I was thinking it was yesterday. They told PC World, essentially, our analysis isn't of the Surface laptops or any specific model line or family. Rather, we conduct annual laptop and tablet brand reliability surveys. We're not making claims about a specific model released at a specific point in time. We're making reliability predictions at the brand level. And they note that they may recommend individual products from brands, even if they don't put recommended on the entire brand. So it's splitting hairs a little bit, I know, but I think a lot of people were saying, oh, they don't recommend Surface products, and it's removing recommended makes it seem punitive, but it's more like a really cool thing that a company could get to say, oh, that company's so good, we're just going to put recommended on the whole company.
They're so good that we don't have to review their stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We know but so what this means is Microsoft as a whole is no longer reliable enough for that rating, right?
It's not so good that they can just say pretty much buy anything, it'll be fine anymore.
Yeah. I wonder how long it's going to take for Apple to have recommended taken away.
Apple almost did, actually. That was a fight that they had to go through on a particular model with the MacBook Pros. Hey, everybody. You should go subscribe and support TWIS at twis.org. It's one of my favorite shows, and it has been for more than a decade. Have I really been listening that long? Because I know
that's amazing. Yes.
This Week in Science with Dr. Kiki and Blair and Justin is the greatest way to keep up on science news. Go and check it out if you haven't already. And you guys are always out doing events now too, which is really cool.
We're really trying to get out and about and go places, which it's one of our new things. I was like, hey, I'm a podcast. It's kind of like being an independent musician. I need to go out where people are and meet people. So doing events. It's fun.
Very cool. So anything else to tell folks about before we go?
Well, if they do go to twist.org or if they check us out, the most recent episode has you in it. So they will have the benefit of hearing our conversation all about your history in podcasting and also your book, Pilot X. It's very exciting.
We talked about the science of time travel a little bit, which was really, really fun. So,
and what else? Oh, and then the Rose City Comic Con, I'm going to be on a panel on Sunday, September 10th, talking about science in the media.
Oh, very cool.
So if you're in Portland, Oregon, and you're going to Rose City Comic Con, come say hi.
Go check that out as well. All right. Before we go, it's time to check in with Len Peralta. What have you been drawing during our conversation today, Len?
Well, Tom, this is a very tricky subject only because it's one of those topics that can go on forever and be debated forever, sort of like best religion or something like that, men versus women, obviously. So I decided to take a look at it and do a sort of a, look at all the research and the data and everything else, and just come up with this little counterpoint to both of your arguments. And the image, for those of you who aren't looking at video, is a boy and a girl, and they're both talking to one another. And the boy asks the girl, "Do you like math?" She says, "Sometimes, I guess." "Do you like science?" "It's okay." "Want to play Overwatch?" "Sure." So it's just sort of just my way of saying that, I am just happy that there are people that are studying science and technology and math, and it doesn't matter to me if they're male or female. I'm just happy that they're out there, and that's the most important part. And I guess that's just the way that's just something I'd like to say. So there you go. That's my image. That's my little image for this week. And there you go. And you can pick it up at my store, lenperaltastore.com. It's on the front page. So.
I love this. I love the tone of this because it's basically the two people who are like, why is everybody else so mad? Let's just go play video games.
Right, exactly.
Play our video games. We have that in common. That's awesome.
There you go. It's very, it's funny because I actually had to go and research with the teenagers who were in my house. And like, what is it that like people kids your age like to do? And Overwatch came up. So I'm like,
there you go.
Awesome.
Well, thanks to everybody who gives a little value back to this show for the value they get from it at patreon.com/DTNS. And we want to hear from all of you in our latest survey. We promise it won't take more than 10 minutes, and it will include one question about coffee. So go let us know what you think at dailytechnewsshow.com/survey. Like I said, it only took a few minutes, dailytechnewsshow.com/survey. It helps us out a lot. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com, and we will be back Monday with Ms. Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
That was great.
That was fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think so. I thought so too.
Yeah. I think we did a good show.
I think we did.
it was pretty excellent.
Well, we'll hear if we were right. No, I think it was really good. That's just my own paranoia showing through. Don't pay attention.
Paranoia.
We'll destroy you.
Twist with guest host Tom Merritt.
Make your own organs. Just add current.
Ooh.
Stem the tide of gender bias. Let's talk about sex. Try my patience.
I'm tempted to use "let's talk about sex" because what other situation are we going to have where we can literally use that? Like, no, what we're talking about.
And you are.
Roll out the mats. I'm loving Big Mats.
Big Mats. How did we miss that when you mentioned the Big Mac? That's good.
Dialing down gender differences. Yet another Windows edition. We finally got tricorders. Try this on for size. Disease diagnosis. There's an app for that. Swipe to diagnose. That could be a CBS series. An apple a day keeps the EMS away.
Oh, Dr. Kiki, if you don't know, these are all at Showbot.
The title, yeah.
TV.
Oh, it's Showbot? Okay.
Yeah, Showbot.tv.
Showbot. SHOWBOT.
Showbot.
TV.
Daily skin news show. I guess we talk a lot about skin.
Oh, yeah,
There
yes.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
Nanochips has some skin in the game.
Ha.
DTNS, the Twist edition.
Yep.
Poor pig. So you can't eat the pig that grow the organ.
Poor piggy.
I mean, you can't get like a pork
That'll
loin
do.
ham hock off of it. It's kind of is nanotech kosher? Systemic cultural differences. Nature battles man again.
Nature and
TNT.
versus man. Man versus nature always.
Wait, men aren't from Mars. Women aren't from Venice.
Venice?
Venus. It's something else. Venus. I thought that said Venom.
Prattle of the sexes. That one's funny.
Oh, it's Venus. Like
Like
veins.
There's an extra
Venus.
I don't know if that was a typo or a riff on the vascular reconstruction.
know the differences between gender differences and upbringing. Tom defers gender differences to Dr. Kiki. Sarah, huh?
Oh, Sarah, huh? Yeah.
Huh?
Let's do the twist.
Twist. The great
Sarah,
DTNS
huh?
twist crossover.
Sarah, huh?
Let's talk about
Let's
sex.
talk about sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because we get to defend that and go, no, we were talking about sex differences.
We really were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I mean, you could call every episode of Twist this.
Right? What are you bringing today, Blair? Animal sex. I've got invertebrate sex again.
It's kind of what animals do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vertebrate or invertebrate.
They also eat, sleep, and run. Or not, they don't all run. They move.
Biped, millipede, no ped at all. Now I got Blair's Animal Corner song stuck in my head.
Good.
Make your own organs.
You should.
I am jealous of your songs on Twist. They're so good.
Great. Wait, here you go.
She loves our creature, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. Then I'm for her.
See, I expect you to start asking
go.
Blair what
I know. What you got, Blair?
Also, still hilarious for me to hear it at normal speed.
I think that is so funny.
It's a very peppy song at 2 1/4 speed on my podcast.
I'm gonna have to try. I have never tried because I do the show and then I edit the show and post it.
Oh yeah.
I don't actually go back and listen to
No,
it again after all that. But I should try listening to it at increased speeds just to see how other people are experiencing it. Right?
Yeah. Giant pandas and squirrels doesn't sound like giant pandas and squirrels at 2 1/4 speed.
So wait.
Oh, beef, exactly. Pandas. I think that may be Blair's opinion of pandas.
She does not have a high opinion.
She is not. Blair's just waiting for pandas to die. She's
Why?
like, just go and die already, pandas.
Come on.
They're
Why would
very
you-
maladapted to life.
Well, what do you want? They're carnivores that somehow subsist on a vegan diet. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Right? They barely subsist. Their bodies. That's why they're not having any babies.
Well, they're not having any baby because their habitat gets pushed
No,
back.
that's
Yeah, they've been bamboozled.
Yes.
bamboozled. Those pandas.
And then, China keeps giving them to zoos. I mean, would you want to do it in front of a crowd of people?
No. I
Neither
me
do pandas.
personally, no.
Depends on the panda, I guess, They need to get the exhibitionist
The
pandas to go to the
exhibitionist
zoo.
pandas, exactly. Yeah. We're gonna personality type the pandas now. This is our
Is there a Myers-Briggs for pandas?
pandas.
Oh, introverted panda. You're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. Why don't you just stay right there in that concrete box? I'll throw bamboo at you occasionally.
I want a theme song for Len and
Oh yes.
song for
Yeah.
hacking stories.
We got-
Like Lamar Wilson's theme song.
Yeah.
Lamar Wilson.
I did try to because Justin dubbed it the Summer of Sharks because there were so many hacking stories, and I tried using this.
Aquabats.
See, if you know the song, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's great." But there were so many people who were like, "I don't understand what they're saying."
Yeah.
I get it.
It's the Aquabats, man. Come on, get
I
with
love
it.
the Aquabats.
That's my next costume. Aquabat.
Aquabat,
Aquabats.
Yep.
shark fighter. Actually, being a shark fighter would be a really good costume.
Be a shark. Be a shark with boxing gloves and boxing trunks.
Oh, the guy who fights back against the shark fighter, or the shark who fights back against the shark.
Oof.
Have you guys all decided on your Halloween costumes already?
No.
Oh.
Yes, of course.
I usually decide on Halloween evening when I go down to my closet of funny shirts.
Oh, no, this is the earliest I've ever been ready for Halloween.
Scrubs, I don't know, police uniform.
What am I gonna do? I think I want to be Helena from Orphan Black.
Oh, wow.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Who would be your sister?
My sisters. You know, I've got to get. You must protect the babies. The babies.
My babies.
My babies. You must protect the babies.
Can you just say, Tatiana Maslany blows my mind.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
I will sit there watching the show for so many years now, knowing that she is playing all of these characters.
But
And
still,
I will think things like, oh, so how did they get Allison to show up for this shoot? And I'm like, because she's Tatiana and she's at every shoot.
she's at all the shoots. Yeah, she's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
To be able to play so many distinct characters.
Do either of you guys watch Orphan Black, Glenn?
No.
So good.
No, I need to watch it. Is that on was it on Hulu? What's it on?
Amazon.
It's on Amazon now and currently airing on BBC America, though I think the finale is this week or next.
But you can start
Yeah, you can
from
go
the beginning.
get the back ones on Amazon, I think.
Okay.
Is that right, Kiki?
Yeah, you can go back to they have all the seasons on Amazon. And if
I'm
you're
still trying to
Amazon
work on
Prime, you can watch the first through fourth seasons for free. The fifth
Oh,
you have
good.
to pay for.
All right. Cool.
I'm just working my way through The Expanse.
Oh, how far have you gone now?
I am now I finished 5 episodes of season 2.
Oh, okay. So you've made it quite a ways, which that tells me something right there because you would have dropped it, I think.
Yeah, I didn't say it's horrible. I just say it's a B plus. And
It's
and
gone up.
Veronica,
It was a B last time you told me.
yeah, it's gone up by a plus.
All right.
Orphan Black, not on Netflix? No?
No.
It's all right.
You don't
What
have
was the
Hulu?
last thing I watched?
No, I do have.
Oh, okay. Or I'm sorry, Amazon.
I have
Not
Prime.
Hulu.
Yeah.
Where'd Hulu come
I
from?
want to see Defenders when it comes. When does Defenders come out?
Next Friday.
Oh, really?
start
Eileen
Let's
got
defend her. Tell me about it. Oh, Eileen got you tickets already?
Eileen got sneak peeks at the first 4 episodes of The Defenders. So, have you watched Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, any of those?
Yes.
So, The Defenders is all of them.
And Iron Fist.
Not the Punisher, actually, but
Yeah.
He will show
at least
up,
on the
though.
first 4 episodes. But it's Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Luke Cage.
Versus Sigourney Weaver.
Yes, Sigourney Weaver is playing the big bad.
Should be
She's
good. I'm
gonna be
hoping it's good.
awesome.
Hoping it's good.
That's gonna be great.
I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed it. Even Iron Fist, which I was like, I did not like that series.
I haven't watched that one because I heard it was just I like
boring.
martial arts stuff. And
Wasn't
You
good.
could probably get away with watching this finale just to understand where he left off, maybe. Honestly, you could probably get away. Like, he's got a big, powerful fist, and his whole mission was to defend a secret city of like
The Himalayas.
fighting masters, and he failed in a way, and so that's important to know at the very beginning of Defenders. But he even says like, "But I failed to defend the city," so it's
does he say it looked like such a big, strong hand?
Luke Cage actually tells Iron Fist, I hope this isn't too spoilery because I'm not going to say what he says, but he actually speaks what I would have wanted to say to Iron Fist
Nice.
when they first meet. I'm like, yes, thank you.
You know,
Thank you, Luke.
honestly, that they should have just done Luke Cage, Iron Fist together in a single show, like a series. It would have been better.
Like just bring him as a secondary character.
Well, because
in
that's
his-
how they were
2 or something.
introduced for the
Yeah.
longest time. They were Luke Cage and Iron Fist. They
Yeah.
ran a hero
Oh,
for hire.
man.
company.
Heroes for hire.
I
Yeah, Heroes for
so
Hire.
wish they would have done a second season of Luke Cage instead of a season of Iron Fist,
Yeah.
and just bring Iron Fist in as a
Yeah.
character. That
And
would
it's
be
like, hey, we're going to start Heroes for Hire. We're going to be this guy who has the one chi power and me who's indestructible. You hire us, we're like PIs, but then we can, really demolish things real good. Real good.
Yeah. So Defenders is for me going to be another show that I'm going to wait until just about all of it is out.
It's all
Well,
coming
it's
out.
all
It's
coming
all
out at
coming
once.
out at once. Okay,
Yep.
because I like the binge watching.
Yep.
If
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't, I'm like Game of Thrones. I'm not watching it. I'm trying to
Mhm.
avoid all spoilers
Ah.
because I'm going to
So
watch
you
it.
haven't
when
seen
this-
where the thing happens
No,
with the other thing?
I haven't seen the things.
Oh,
No.
no.
Jeez. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? Here's the thing. Here's the
Binge,
thing
binge.
about Game of Thrones. Stick with it because you'd be like, God, this is so. This like what's? It's like why
This season?
am I watching this? No, no. What I'm saying is,
watched
it like
all of
it like
I've watched
you-
all of it except for this season.
it feels so. No. It feels so bleak sometimes. Like,
Oh, right.
like, what's
Oh,
the
I see.
point?
You mean if you were watching all of it from
Yes.
scratch.
If you're
Yeah,
starting,
yeah.
if you're not watching anything, you're going to be like, you're going to want to give up. But I'm telling you, stay with it because,
I see.
yeah.
No, Kiki's seen the previous season, so she knows that already.
Yeah,
Oh.
I've read the books. I've seen all the
Okay.
previous seasons. I just haven't seen this season.
Oh, this
'cause
season is great.
I want to binge it all all at once. That's what I do.
That's why I was
Oh.
confused when you said that. Because
No, I thought you'd never watched
You were
it. I
talking
thought-
about just
yeah.
this season.
I thought you never watched it. No, this season is awesome. This is the best season ever.
No, this is best season. The first 2, I think, were really good.
Yeah.
And they're all good. They're all better than most other things that I watch. But I've been rewatching, and they definitely do slow down a bit in 4, 5, and 6, and then really
Yeah.
pick it
Yeah,
up
they
again.
do. They do. This season is just, it's great.
But you have to have it be that bleak for the
Yeah.
things that are happening
Right.
to be that fun.
Exactly.
Like I can
Yes.
see, like, oh yeah, you were setting me up for stuff that has happened. that
Exactly.
would not have had as much impact otherwise.
Right. No, I agree. I compared the thing that happened to
To the other thing.
The other
no,
thing-
to my feeling when Darth Vader turns to the light side.
Ah,
that- it's that
It's like that
momentous.
impactful for you.
Yes, that
Wow.
impactful.
That was impactful. I was kind of
Oh my-
annoyed.
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
so annoyed.
Well, Roger, you got to remember, I was 12 years old in the theater,
I
and I was like, "This is so amazing."
I was 11, and I said, "Really?"
the
You
cynicism back then.
I was very on the
I
fence.
was born
Return of the-
cynic.
It's like, dude, I know you shot this up over by the sequoias up in like the redwood forest. It's like, I don't know.
oh
part
no,
of
I'm
it
not
was
talking about
that-
the Ewoks, dude. I'm
That's your
talking about-
criticism of Return of the Jedi, is that you knew the location of the shoot.
No. I think part of it was that they did so many behind the scenes for Return of the Jedi on TV. Like, this is how they made the puppet, like, Jabba the Hutt and all this. It's like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of lame. I expected the ending between Darth Vader and the Emperor to like go like full on Mortal Kombat. Like, no, I'm gonna pick up the old guy and just toss him down the track. The track.
No, but it was
Sure.
more than just a fight. It was like his actual. He turned. It was great. He became who he was. It's great.
Oh, you're talking about that one. I thought you were talking about when he turned evil, when Anakin
No.
surprised you by turning evil.
No.
Sorry. Yes, I spoiled Return of the Jedi for everybody in the chat room. I'm sorry.
Spoilers.
Sorry about that, guys. If you hadn't seen
Also, Soylent Green is made of people. Spoiler.
it, sorry about that.
Isn't it funny? Like, there are certain things that you're allowed, like, universally, people are like, well, yeah, okay. It's made of people. I got it.
I got it. This is
Yeah.
you know this. We've known this for a while. It's
You can
okay.
say, like, I bet someone out there is annoyed at what little I said about the Defenders already.
Yeah.
But then people will be like, oh yeah, Soylent Green's made of people. That's fine. Not a problem.
Remember last week I was talking about Singing in the Rain, how I'd never seen it,
Oh yeah.
and so I watched it. It was beautiful because I didn't know any of the story. I mean, I knew some of the songs, but it was great just watching it and like I didn't know anything. Like I'm like, oh, this is a really cool film. Like it was great. So I guess from a spoiler point of view,
There is something to say for that, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have anybody spoil Singing in the Rain for me for 50 years.
In the rain, Len.
There was rain.
There was, yeah, he was.
Actually, if you watch that movie, you should watch some episode of the Muppets where so Gene Kelly, right?
Yeah.
Appears as a guest, and they're all trying to make him do that routine on the show. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
That's funny. Yeah.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna end the stream. We're gonna keep recording for just a second though. But thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.